today I'm working on this figurative painting. It started with a messy, chaotic background, and then I drew on top of it with chalk to identify my figures. And now I am just quickly coming in with some negative painting using a very large brush. And at this point, I'm just using white for the background. This will change later on. And it's an interesting way to work. Sometimes you have to think in reverse. But you can start to see now the legs on these figures are taking shape. You can add and subtract as well. I mean, you can paint in positively, which you'll see me doing within the figures, but you could also add another figure or subtract a figure by painting it out. I like to leave more in the beginning and then make decisions of whether something would stay in the painting as I move along. If you get rid of too much initially, you're not going to have enough to respond to. When you add something back, sometimes it's not as cohesive with the painting to try and paint something in. It can have a different feel. Just adjusting the figures a little bit and refining their shapes. Adding some rich, dark color. You want to be aware of your values when you're doing this, that you don't end up all in the mid-tones. I use a variety of both transparent and opaque pigments depending on the effect I want to get. When you use transparent pigments, you will allow any of your patterns from underneath to show through. This can make it interesting and everything won't appear flat. You can add more patterns as you go as well if you find that you've lost too much. You can always get a stencil out or just use your paintbrush to make marks. Do a semic writing. There's all kinds of things. Add some collage in to loosen it up again. There's no fixed rules or right or wrong. We're just building up our painting, and here you see me adding some more color to it that is in the painting from the underpainting. I think this is violet or red oxide, red or violet oxide, I'm not sure. And now coming back in this yellow figure, she's going to be the hero image here, and you see me adding that yellow in a few other places just so that your eye keeps moving through the painting. Adding a little bit of dark value here to pull your eye across. This is the phthalo turquoise color, and it is pre-mixed from the factory. I am using chroma paint, which is made in Vancouver on Granville Island. It's a small paint manufacturing company. They only make heavy body paint at this time and some mediums, but their colors are rich. It's very, very nice to work with. I am painting right from the jar. I wouldn't recommend this as a practice. I think it's a better idea to decant some of the paint into a small container and use that up. I normally do put it out on my palette, but in this case, I just grab the jar and I'm working straight from there. Acrylic paint does have a shelf life. It can also become contaminated. I've had paint go moldy in the past. Sometimes it just goes off as well over time. So buying a big quantity is great, that you can save money. You pay a lot less per ounce this way, but be mindful that you're going to be able to use it in a reasonable length of time. That's a good reason to keep working in a limited palette. You can buy larger quantities of paint, go deep and narrow instead of shallow and wide. It also forces you to learn to mix your colors. By using a limited palette, your painting is going to be more cohesive than if you're using every color under the sun while you're painting. In the case of color, less is more, and learning to mix is so valuable to your art practice. It's important to step back from your work as well, to give it a good view and really see where you need to add, what might need to go. I've decided to put some hair on this gal. I do that with a couple of simple brush strokes. When you're thinking about adding hair, think about keeping it fairly simple, like a shape. I often start with a color underneath and then put my dark color on top. That way I can scratch back and reveal some of the undercolor or leave little bits of it showing. That can be a nice addition to adding the color to the hair. Here I'm just extending her arm, changing the shape up on it, and I'm going to bring it right off the edge of the painting. It's good to bring your work off the edge of the painting. That expands the feel of the painting. This painting, as you can see, is on paper. It is Strathmore mixed media paper, 18 by 24. Normally with these paintings, I keep them in a drawer. Oh, there goes one guy is down there in my painting. So yeah, I keep the paper paintings just stored in a drawer until I'm ready to send them off to a gallery, or if they sell, I will mount them on a cradled panel. But this saves me a lot of room, and I can store a lot of paintings in flat files this way. I do have a video on mounting a painting. If you're not familiar with that process, I'll leave the link in the description below and put a card up here on the screen. Just going back in around refining my figures again. A little bit of tinted paint here, and now I'm going to add in a very narrow leg coming off the edge, just so that she doesn't look and feel like she's standing on one leg here. So it's easy enough to change the shapes as you go, and I'm just refining the shapes here and putting a little bit of definition and color into the faces. I tend to go back and forth on the faces. They seem to be the hardest part of the figure to know how much to add and keep them abstracted. So often I just leave their faces blank. Sometimes I put in a little bit of features. Adding a little bit of light to this gal and just continue refining things. Here you see me adding some asemic writing, just loosening things up. I'm using some Neocolor crayons. There's several things that you could use for this. If they're water soluble, just make sure that you seal them with a workable fixative before carrying on. Well, this painting isn't quite finished, but I hope that you've enjoyed the process and that it's something that you'll try yourself. It's a lot of fun working this way. And you can have results that you wouldn't achieve by starting from a photo. Thanks for watching, and please leave a comment if you have any questions that you'd like me to answer or ideas for upcoming videos. That would be great.